What's up, everybody? Nick Dwyer back for the 10th inning with another episode of This Day in Sports History. In yesterday's episode, we saw arguably the greatest tennis player of all time, Roger Federer, not only get his 6th Wimbledon championship, but also get his 7th of record 8 Wimbledon championships on the men's side. We don't have anything quite like that today in the sense that someone's getting their record-breaking Wimbledon, but we do have more Wimbledons to talk about. We have a lot of British Opens to talk about, and we have a former MVP getting traded. So if you all enjoy this video, leave a like on it. If you're new to the channel and you like what you see, hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it. This Day in Sports History. We start out today in 1877, and we have the first ever Wimbledon tennis championships being held. This would be the opening day of the first official lawn tennis tournament. Only the men would end up playing in this tournament, but it's turned out to be one of the greatest tournaments in tennis history and really shows who the best of the best is. We stick with Wimbledon in 1891. On the women's side, Lottie Dod defeats Blanche Bingley Hilliard 6-2, 6-1 in a repeat matchup and result of the previous two finals to win her 4th of 5 single major titles. Now we move to the US Open in 1904. Willie Anderson wins his 3rd of 4 US Open titles, 5 strokes ahead of runner-up Gilbert Nicholas to win his 3rd of 4 majors. Move from the US Open to the British Open in 1937. Henry Cotton with a score of 2 over wins his 2nd of 3 Open titles, 2 strokes ahead of runner-up Reg Whitcomb, and his 2nd of 3 majors. 12 years later in 1949, stay at the British Open, Bobby Locke with a score of 5 under wins after a 36-hole playoff, 12 strokes ahead of runner-up Harry Bradshaw to get his 1st of 4 majors. 5 years later at the British Open in 1954, Peter Thompson with a score of 9 under wins his 1st of 5 Open titles, 1 stroke ahead of runners-up Bobby Locke, Di Reeves, and Sid Scott. 2 years later in 1956 in Major League Baseball, the BBWAA, or the Baseball Writers Association of America, voted 14-12 to establish the Cy Young Award to honor the most outstanding pitcher in the league. Commissioner Ford Frick initiated this idea because he felt like pitchers were getting a lack of support when it came to MVP voting, therefore they deserved their own award. Ironically though, the first recipient of the Cy Young Award would be Dodger Don Newcombe. He would also win the MVP that season. But we move back to the British Open in 1960. Kel Nagel, with a score of 10 under, wins his only major title, 1 stroke ahead of Arnold Palmer. 5 years later in 1965, stay at the British Open. Peter Thompson, with a score of 7 under, wins his 5th Open championship, 2 strokes ahead of runners-up Brian Huget and Christy O'Connor to win his 5th and final major. Stay at the British Open 1 year later, 1966, Jack Nicklaus with a score of 2 under defeats runners-up Doug Sanders and Dave Thomas by 1 stroke to become only the 4th player in history to win all 4 majors and also get his 6th of 18 major titles. Also in 1968, in the NBA, we have a former MVP for the first time in NBA history get traded the season after winning the MVP. Wilt Chamberlain becomes the first reigning MVP to get traded when he moves from the Philadelphia 76ers to the Los Angeles Lakers. The Sixers traded Wilt for Darryl Imhoff, Archie Clark, and Jerry Chambers, plus an undisclosed amount of cash. Wilt Chamberlain's one of the greatest players ever. You don't need me to read his accolades. If I do, they would sound fake, but they're not. Wilt Chamberlain, just off an MVP season, moving on to the Lakers. 4 years later, in 1972, in Major League Baseball, Nolan Ryan would strike out 3 batters against the Red Sox in the 2nd inning. Not only would he strike all 3 of them out, but he would strike all 3 of them out on 9 pitches, giving him an immaculate inning. But this would not be the only immaculate inning in Ryan's career. This would be his 2nd immaculate inning, making him the 3rd MLB pitcher to have 2 immaculate innings up to that point. Ryan would join Lefty Grove and Sandy Koufax as the other 2 pitchers to accomplish this feat. There are now 7 pitchers all-time who have done this, but at the time, Ryan, 3rd. Also in 1972, at Wimbledon on the men's side, Stan Smith defeated Ilie Nastase 4-6, 6-3, 6-3, 4-6, 7-5 to win his only Wimbledon title and his 2nd of 2 majors. 4 years later, back in Major League Baseball, Larry Dierker would no-hit the Montreal Expos as the Houston Astros would win the game 6-0. On the day, 9 innings pitched, 4 walks allowed, 8 strikeouts en route to the no-hitter. 1 year later, in 1977, we move right back to the British Open. Tom Watson, with a score of 12 under, wins his second of 5 Open titles, 1 stroke ahead of Jack Nicklaus. Move up just over a decade to 1988, and we see Nolan Ryan once again. This time, he would become the second player to win 100 games on 2 different teams in 2 different leagues. On the Angels, he would win 138, and on the Astros, he would win 106, adding to his grand total overall of 324 wins. Cy Young would finally have a partner on this list when Nolan Ryan would do this. 1989, we move back to Wimbledon. On the men's side, Boris Becker defeated Stefan Edberg 6-0, 7-6, 6-4 to win his 3rd and last Wimbledon title and his 3rd of 6 single major titles. Stay at the 89 Wimbledon. Go to the women's side though. Steffi Graf successfully defends her title, defeating Martina Navratilova 6-2, 6-7, 6-1 to get her 7th of 22 majors on the singles side. Stay with Wimbledon. In 1995 on the men's side, Pete Sampras won his 3rd straight Wimbledon title after defeating Boris Becker 6-7, 6-2, 6-4, 6-2. This would also be his 6th of 14 major titles on the singles side. We stay with Pete Sampras. In 2000 on the men's side, Sampras would win his 4th straight Wimbledon singles title, defeating Patrick Rafter 6-7, 7-6, 6-4, 6-2 to win his 13th Grand Slam singles title of 14 overall. 1 year later, we stay on the men's side at Wimbledon. Goran Ivanisevic wins his only single major title, defeating Patrick Rafter 6-3, 3-6, 6-3, 2-6, 9-7. Now we go to the FIFA World Cup final in 2006. Italy would defeat France 5-3 on penalties after tying 1-1 after extra time. Obviously, Italy would make all of their penalty shots since they got 5. France would miss the second shot, so they didn't even have a chance to shoot the 5th one once Italy made it. It was over. This would be the 4th World Cup title for Italy. Stay in 2006, go to Wimbledon. On the men's side, Roger Federer wins his 4th straight Wimbledon singles title, defeating Rafael Nadal 6-0, 7-6, 6-7, 6-3 to win his 8th of 20 majors on the singles side. Finally in 2006 at the US Senior Open, Alan Doyle with a score of 8 under wins 2 strokes ahead of Tom Watson for his 4th Champions Tour major title and his 2nd consecutive US Senior Open title. 3 years later, we have a retirement in the NHL when Joe Sakic would retire after 21 NHL seasons, finishing with 625 goals and 1,641 points. 2 years later, 2011, in Major League Baseball, Derek Jeter would hit a 3rd inning home run off of David Price to become the 28th player and the first Yankee to collect 3,000 hits. Price left a hanger over the plate, and although I love Derek Jeter, it was a gift to him. Still, became one of only 3 players to hit a home run to get his 3,000th hit, one of 2 at the time, joining Wade Boggs. Since then, Alex Rodriguez has also done it. On the day, Jeter had 5 hits, and this was only the 2nd hit of the day, but what a way to get your 3,000. Also in 2011, at the Super Rugby Final, the Queensland Reds would defeat the Canterbury Crusaders 18-13 to claim their first Super Rugby title. 5 years later, in 2016, at the Wimbledon Women's Final, Serena Williams would defeat Angelique Kerber 7-5, 6-3, equaling Steffi Graf's 22 Grand Slam single titles of 23 overall. 1 year later, in 2017, in women's golf, Ataya Titkul becomes the youngest winner in a female professional golf event at only 14 years, 4 months, and 19 days old, as she would win the Ladies European Thailand Championships. Finally, in 2018, in the NBA, LeBron James would lead the Cleveland Cavaliers once again, this time signing with the Los Angeles Lakers. So there you have it. That's what happened on this day in sports history. If I left anything out, I do apologize, but I will see everybody tomorrow for Nico Dwyer and the 10th inning. See ya.